We're now live.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. I'm Jenny McCullum, the Chief Procurement Officer for JEA and the Chair of the Awards Committee. And I'd like to call the October 29th, 2020 Awards meeting to order. We do have a quorum with Stephen Datz, Alan McElroy, Julie Crawford is sitting in for Joe Arfano as a delegate. Steve Tootin and Wayne Young are all present. We are represented by OGC with Lasikia Hodges, and Budget is represented by Lori Whitmer. I'm going to just take a moment to read through our WebEx statement in an effort to slow the spread of COVID-19 virus and to encourage social distancing. Governor DeSantis issued Executive Order 20-69, allowing local governments to hold public meetings using telecommunication rather than a physical location. In keeping with the executive order, the JEA Awards Committee meetings are being held via WebEx teleconference, which allows interested persons to view and participate in the meetings remotely. Individuals who have technical difficulties accessing the meeting during the meeting, you should contact Lynn Ricks at 665-8621 for assistance. In the event multiple people have technical difficulties that preclude them from attending or accessing the meeting will be recessed or postponed until the technical issues can be remedied. This meeting is being recorded and the minutes are being taken. Therefore, any individuals who speak during the meeting should do so clearly and slowly to ensure that they are heard and understood for recording purposes and by the other participants and attendees. Participants shall, regardless of how they are accessing the meeting, keep their microphones on mute at all times when not speaking. The meeting host will have the capability to mute any microphone that is transmitting sound that causes feedback or that will otherwise disrupt the meeting. Each person must wait to be recognized by the meeting host before speaking, and if people attempt to speak out of turn or talk over one another, they will be removed from the meeting. Each time an individual speaks during the meeting, they must first provide their name to ensure those dialing in can identify the speakers, and the members of the public must state their name each time they make a comment. For all awards committee meetings, the public comment portion occurs at the beginning of the meeting, and all public comments should pertain only to items on the agenda and are limited to 3 minutes in duration. The agenda and associated materials can be accessed through the JEA website at JEA.com under our Procurement tab, and then we have another tab that is Awards, Meetings, Agendas, and Minutes. Members of the public may submit their comments by email in advance of the meeting or may log in or dial into the meeting to speak during the public comment portion. Individuals who are unable to access the meeting or who wish to submit their comments in advance may do so by submitting their comment via email to Lynn Ricks, and her email address is rixlw@jea.com. Public comments submitted by email must be received no later than 10:10 a.m. on the date of the meeting. Public comments submitted by email will be read into the record during the public comment portion of the meeting. Individuals attending the call will be given an opportunity to comment one at a time and in an orderly fashion upon recognition by the meeting host. All public comment will be given equal consideration regardless of the manner in which they were submitted. When we conclude the meeting, the recorded version will be on the website at the address I previously mentioned. So I'm going to pass it over to Landon to take us through the public comment portion and the WebEx controls before we start the meeting.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Landon Todd, and for those that are new to the WebEx technology, let me give you a brief overview of the controls. If you're joining us via the desktop interface or a smart device, such as a smartphone or tablet, you may move around the screen and we'll see a series of buttons at the bottom. Now, the very first one that you may notice looks like a red microphone with a slash through it. If it is red, you are muted and will be on mute for the majority of the meeting unless recognized to speak. Now, if you are recognized to speak or asked to provide some comments, you will click on that button and it will turn dark gray or black. Now, this will mean you are unmuted and people can hear you. I do ask that you use this option to mute your line when you are not speaking. This will allow us to reduce the amount of background noise and have the most productive meeting possible. Also, if you'd like to see who is participating in today's meeting, if you look 3 more buttons to the right, you'll find an icon that looks like a person. Now, if you click on it, it will bring up what's called the participant list. If you're on a mobile device, it will pull up in front of everything. And if you joined on your computer, it will come up on the right side of your screen. This will allow you to see a long list of individuals who have joined today's meeting. Also, we have enabled the chat capability. If you touch your screen or scroll around next to the person icon, you'll notice something that looks like an icon that is called the caption bubble. If you click on that, it will bring up what's called the chat window. Please remember that this meeting is being recorded, and I ask that you please be professional. But if you run into any difficulties at all, you can chat me directly, and if you'd like to type comments to everyone. Now, during today's meeting, when presentations are shared, you may desire to zoom in to more easily read the content. Now, within WebEx, located on the left side, you'll notice 3 key options. The first is the icon with a plus positive indicator. This will allow you to easily zoom in on the content on your display. Now, the second option is the minus negative indicator, and it will allow you to reverse right back out and zoom out of the content. And lastly is the icon with 4 arrows expanding. This will allow you to maximize every presentation to your current WebEx window. Now, due to circumstances resulting from COVID-19, a historic number of employees has transitioned to remote work. WebEx meetings have never been more vital for staying connected. And for some users, meeting experiences may be impacted due to the strain on their service provider causing internet and phone service degradation. Now, I'm going to go over some tips where you can take the best advantage in today's meeting. Number 1, close your background applications. Even if you're not using them, applications on your device are using precious resources. By closing these applications or browser sessions, you will save on those resources. Now, number 2, switch to the call-in via audio. If your internet audio or video experiences has some issues, call in using the dial-in numbers in today's meeting invitation to join via your cell phone or a traditional landline. Number 3, hardwire your workstation. Now, depending on your location and how many people are using the same Wi-Fi around you, you may see slower speeds on your Wi-Fi rather than having a wired Ethernet connection to your computer. And lastly, number 4, we are here to help you. Contact the JEA WebEx support team if you're having any difficulties at webexsupport@jea.com. Now, those are just the major controls of WebEx, and now we're going to go ahead and proceed for public comments. And we will be using what's called the raised hand feature. If you're using the WebEx client, this feature is located within the participant window. At the top of the list, your name will be the most visible, and to your right, you'll notice a gray icon that looks like a hand. If you click it, it will turn blue, letting me know that you'd like to be recognized to speak. Now, for those that have called in directly, there's 2 other options that you can notify me that you'd like to provide comment. Now, the first one is by pressing *3 on your telephone. This will raise your hand, and then you'll press *6 to unmute your line. Now remember, if you unmute your line, please state your first and last name so everyone may hear who is speaking before you proceed with your comment. Now, as we go through this meeting, I am the moderator and have the capability to mute everyone's line, but I will only do so to make sure this meeting runs smoothly. Now, as it is a little over 10 minutes after, we can now proceed with public comments of today's meeting. I will first ask Lynn is there any public comments that we received via email that need to be read into the record? Lynn?
This is Lynn Rick. No public comments at this time.
Thank you so much. Now, we're going to go ahead and move to the next phase. For those that are using the WebEx technology, this is now your time to provide public comments. Please raise your hand or send a message in the chat window letting me know that you'd like to be recognized to speak. So I'm going to give everyone a couple of seconds here, and we're going to review the chat window and the participant list. Jenny, I'm not seeing anything in today's meeting for anybody like to be recognized for public comments, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so today on our regular agenda, we have items 1 through 7, and item number 10, we have deferred items 8 and 9. They all have been reviewed by Procurement and Budget and are ready for the Awards Committee review. I will take us through each one of them individually, ask for any comments or questions. Once that portion is over, I'll ask for a motion to approve each award with a second, and I'll do a roll call through the entire committee for the approval and before moving on to the next award. So we've got award number 1, which is our meeting minutes from the October 22nd meeting. And I'll ask the committee if you guys have any comments or questions on those meeting minutes.
This is Steve Tooten, motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Steve.
Alan McElroy, second.
I heard the Steve's comment first, so I had a motion from Steve Tooten and a second from Stephen Datz. I'll do a roll call through the entire committee to approve the meeting minutes from October 22nd, starting with Steve Tooten.
Approved.
Stephen Datz?
Approved.
Alan McElroy?
Approved.
Julie Crawford?
Approved.
And Wayne Young? Wayne, I didn't hear yours. Can you give us your vote?
Approved.
Still, thank you. I heard it that time. All right, so award number 2, this is a sole source. This is for an interim chief human resources officer and transition coach consulting services. And so we are looking to award this to Dynamic Corporate Solutions, Inc., and asking them to provide a full-time on-site, off-site senior consultant for a minimum of 6 months, serving as our interim chief human resources officer and consultant on transition with the new CEO. The consultant will be responsible for running all aspects of JEA's human resources function, supervise all JEA human resources employees, liaise with union officials, consult with new CEO on transition issues and other key strategic HR issues, and interact with the board of directors as needed. So Dynamic Corporate Solutions is the company recommended for this award in the amount of $200,000. And it's imperative that the local consultant be familiar with JEA's culture and engaged to perform these services. And Dynamic Corporate Solutions has a history of working with JEA and is knowledgeable about JEA's structure and its culture. The quote in the sole source form is attached as backup. We're looking at about $33,000 a month, which brings us to about our $200,000 total for the award. And I'll just give you a little bit of background. So DCSI worked with JEA in 2013 and provided strategic initiative consulting services. This work included reviewing data from previous surveys, development of a workplace survey, and providing data for future benchmarking. They also conducted focus groups and were engaged in a consultant for emergency talent acquisitions, tactical and strategic support, and customer service representative job family consulting services. They have worked with JEA for many years and also provided a third-party focus group for Northside Generation employees. So they have intimate knowledge of the culture, the needs, and the business initiatives. They've got the depth and the breadth of the knowledge that other consultants are not able to provide. We also have a pretty quick turnaround time, and it's important for us to be able to transition with the new CEO. This is for a 6-month period or until the Chief Human Resources Officer is hired, trained, and transitioned. So we're expecting about 6 months. That's what this award will cover, but we give ourselves some flexibility here if we need more than 6 months through that transition period. So do you guys have any questions or comments on this sole source award?
Jenny, this is Stephen. Can you go to page 13 for me?
Sure. Lynn, can we get to 13?
Yeah, so on the certificate of sole source, I was just curious, should Angie's initials actually be on that second line since this is more of a professional services engagement?
So no. So this is, they have done professional services for us in the past. You know, we probably could go either way. I'll let Lasikia jump in and see if she has an opinion on which line we use, but we've never asked them to do something of this magnitude. They just have the knowledge, and one of the reasons why we think they're the only justifiable source. But I'll let Lasikia chime in on that.
Jenny, I'm sorry. What's the question? Can the member... Is it Stephen? Can you ask that question again?
Yeah, just for consistency to align with what's represented in the contract, I was thinking that the second line under the undersigned certified that this is a professional services as opposed to just general services on the above line. So the question was whether or not the second line should have been initialed or checked off as opposed to the first.
Yeah, you know, Stephen, I mean, that's a great question. I probably would be, I think we could go either way, like Jenny said, but I probably would be more inclined to check the first box only because I'm not, this isn't a follow-up, right, Jenny? Isn't this a brand new contract? And so typically, Stephen, when we're checking the second box, it's a contract that we already have in place, and we need to go back to that same source to do some more kind of work is how I have traditionally understood that. So that's why I would be more inclined to check the first box. And I think the first box definitely, by terming it required supply services, I think the term services certainly includes professional services. It's broad enough.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I was reading the follow-up as going back to the same company as well. But thank you for the clarification.
Mm-hmm. Jenny, this is Steve.
Yes, sir.
A little farther down that same page on 13, the date Chrissy provides probably needs to be shifted. A little early.
Oh, yes. We will fix that. Thank you. Instead of October 27th, 2002, we'll switch it to 2020. You're taking us back in time, Chrissy. When there was pre-COVID, maybe not a bad thing.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Stephen. My bad. I'll fix it.
Thank you.
Jenny,
any other questions?
Yes, Jenny, this is
Wayne.
Wayne. I had a question similar to Stephen's on the certification. I was thinking, too, based on the criteria that was used, that this company has worked with JEA before, that number 2 would probably, line 2 would probably be the one that's initialed. But I could see where, based on the time that we're looking at to bring someone on board, that one could be signed too. But based on the past experience in working with this company, when we speak in terms of them working with JEA, I see what 2013 was highlighted. Have they worked with JEA subsequent to 2013?
Has there been any other additional work? Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry.
Yes, subsequent to 2013.
So that we've done quite a bit, but it was all around that time frame, 2014. So it's been some time, but they do have.
Sorry, this is Chrissy through the chair. What the information that I provided, I got from Oracle and looking up the POs, and that's as far as I could go back. So that was all of it was done around that time frame, as you suggested.
So Oracle goes back to 2011 or 10 timeframe. So anything between 2010 and now, Chrissy would have captured by pulling past services from Oracle to see what we've paid and the different work that they've done for us.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So when we do say it's the only one justifiable source, are we saying that based on the fact that we have worked with, they have worked with JEA before? And that's what I was focusing my attention on. This, I can understand why we would approve this.
Right. Through the chair. Yeah. And Wayne, that's exactly, because the qualifier here with your single source award, which is really broad and very subjective, and it really just needs to be rational from a procurement standpoint, is the justifiable. It's not, in some procurement codes, it's a sole source award because there's only the one person that can literally perform the service. But here, that's not what we're saying in our rules. We're saying that we feel this is the one person we should go to because of the circumstances. And I think the past work that the JEA has done with this particular entity makes it more justifiable, coupled with the time crunch, that this is why we're making this argument that we have a short time frame. We've done the work. We've worked with this vendor in the past, and we were satisfied. I think that's a very different sole source argument than what the second one is intended to be, which is closer in time. I mean, you are expired with your current vendor. It's not 7 years ago, because if we interpreted it that way, we can jump back 20 years and check box number 2. So box number 2 has to be closer in time, and you're immediately going back to that vendor to finish up the work that you just, you expired, that came under expiration. So I think from a legal standpoint, the justifiable has been checked because of the time crunch and the fact that we've got to quickly deploy somebody, and it just makes sense to not gamble and go with somebody that the JEA has used before and they've provided satisfactory services. Does that make sense?
It does for me, and I understand the time crunch and the fact that the company has worked with JEA before, and there is mention made of that it's imperative that we do bring someone on board who's familiar with the culture. Hence my question about how far back was our most recent interaction with this company. And I feel that if we haven't had interaction with any other company, and even though we may not have had interaction with this company for the past 6 to 7 years, they're probably the closest we're going to get that's familiar with JEA. So it fills the bill.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Jenny, this is Alan. I move for approval.
Thank you, Allington. Thank you, Wayne. I got Wayne Young as a second to the motion. So we'll do a roll call through the committee to approve award number 2. Alan McElroy?
Approved.
Wayne Young?
Approved.
Stephen Datz?
Approved.
Julie Crawford?
Approved.
And Steve Tootin?
Approved.
Thank you. All right, award number 3. This is a request for proposal. And this includes the services for tenant improvement, so we're going to call that TI moving forward, design services for the proposed new corporate headquarters building located in downtown Jacksonville, Florida. JEA executed a lease with Ryan Companies US, Inc., which we'll refer to as Ryan moving forward, for a build-to-suit office building and an adjacent dedicated garage structure. Ryan's proposal for the core and the shell project was selected through a competitive negotiation process. And then JEA also engaged with ASD/Sky to help develop workspace programming for the interiors in advance of this award, so the advance of the tenant improvement design engagement. So this was an RFP to look at who was most qualified to perform this work and who ranked the highest. And RS&H Inc. is the highest proposal or highest ranked proposal, and we are recommending the award go to them in the amount of $1,019,860. We are thinking the expected project completion is around the end of July of 2022. We received 13 different proposals, so had quite a bit of competition here. And negotiations were held with RS&H and were deemed successful, and the rates and, looking at similar services, those have been deemed reasonable from a rate perspective. I've got some information just on what they're going to be doing, and I'll read through that and then ask you guys if you have any other questions. So the design plans will be developed in conjunction with Ryan's architecture and engineering, exterior and core design, and will include JEA occupied corporate office and storefront space in the garage building. As a note, portions of the storefront may be occupied by third parties, and the contract shall provide the tenant improvement design at key thematic design drawings, construction drawing milestones for JEA, authorities having jurisdiction, and Ryan review and approval. JEA approved changes as a note to the building size and the scope in May of 2020 that will affect programming and occupancy needs. And JEA will also be assessing, with the consultant's guidance, application of best practices that involve from COVID-19 workplace standards and accommodations as the interior design progresses. So I'll pause and see if you have any questions or comments.
Jenny, has JEA had a vendor relationship before with RS&H Inc.?
I believe we have done. It's been a little while, but I believe we have done work with RS&H in the past. Does anybody have a definite answer on that?
Jenny, if I may, it's Nancy.
Yes, ma'am.
RS&H was, I can't remember what we called them years ago. We had kind of standing engineering services, and there were a handful of companies that provided work to JEA, but I think it's been several years since they've done work for or with us.
Thank you, Nancy.
Very reputable company, and if you look at, the competition that we had, for them to rise to the top should give you guys some comfort as well. Any other questions or comments on award number 3?
Steve Tooten, motion to approve.
Thanks, Steve. Can I get a second?
Alan, second.
Thanks, Alan. I'll do a roll call through the entire committee to approve award number 3, starting with Steve Tooten.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Thank you. Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Julie Crawford.
Approved.
And Wayne Young.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, award number 4 is a contract amendment. This is for our FY20 and FY21 Dell laptop and related equipment purchases with 1-year support contract. So we brought this to the awards committee originally in May of 2020, and the awardee is CDW Government LLC. They are the recommended awardee for this contract amendment, and we are recommending the award amount to be $644,144.55. So this is for additional JEA standard Dell laptops and related equipment needs for FY21, which will include Dell. I'm going to give you guys some specs here, 7400 2-in-1, 7200 2-in-1 tablets with accessories, 2 different types of docks, and active pen and auto air adapters. So the original contract offering included a 10 to 24% discount off list price on the Dell equipment and support, including any additional related equipment not specified on our listed workbook. In exchange for this new larger volume increase and new equipment, JEA has negotiated with CDW to further reduce their overall pricing by 10%, which has resulted in lower rates than the original response and a sourcing saving of about $75,000. So great work on this, Nathan and Nick, for being able to take those additional quantities that weren't known at the time of the bid and negotiate a lower price here. So I will stop there and ask if there are any questions or comments.
Through the chair to Mr. Das. Stephen, are these like for our employees in the field? I always was curious when these come through, kind of who are the target recipients of this equipment?
Yeah, it could be a combination, Steve. It's basically in lieu of a workstation. This is the new model laptop that is part of our standard.
Thank you.
I think I'm due for one of those, Stephen.
Is that a motion?
You may be, Jenny.
I know, right? Any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve. Stephen Das.
Thanks, Stephen.
Second.
Thank you, Wayne. And Nathan just gave me a quick update, so I need to also let you guys know that Brooke, our buyer under Nathan Woyak, was the one that negotiated the savings. So great work, Brooke. I'm sorry I didn't call you out. I just assumed it was formal and that Nick and Nathan had done that, but great work. All right, so I had a motion from Stephen Datz and Wayne Young, and I will do a roll call through the entire committee to approve award number 4. Starting with Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Julie Crawford.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
Great. All right. Thank you. Award number 5 is another contract amendment. So this is our general engineering services for the water, wastewater, and reclaimed water plants project. We had originally gone out for competitive bid for a continuing services contract for the water, wastewater, and the reclaimed water plants projects for small construction projects under $2 million. And that's a state statute requirement. So when we do continuing services for engineering and design work, we have to limit those to the smaller projects where our construction is at a lower dollar amount. And what that does is it pushes us to procure individual design projects for the larger projects that we have. But recently, there was a statute change that moved that limit. And so we're coming back to the committee to increase these awards to be able to maximize the use of these contracts. We had originally 4 different companies that we brought to the awards committee, and this was back in December of 2016. And it was Midtower and Associates, Inc., Hazen and Sawyer, Constantine Engineering, LLC, and Carollo Engineering, Inc. And so you'll see on the second page of the award document that you can see the history of the different times that we've come back for contract amendments in this box that Lynn has on the screen now. So we are bringing these totals. There's a backup document that shows, how we're getting to these totals. And I'm going to just quickly, here's the increase. So we're going from allowing our continuing services, small projects, the state statute's going from a $2 million cap for the amount that we're estimating our construction projects to a $4 million cap. So a lot of this is just to readjust to the updates to the state statute. I'll quickly go through the award amounts so that we have those on the record, and then I'll ask if the business has anything else to add and if you guys have any questions. So the increase amount, the contract amendment for Midtower and Associates is $930,000, Hazen and Sawyer $230,000, Constantine Engineering LLC is $740,000, and Carollo Engineers is $300,000. So I'm going to ask the business if you guys want to add anything, any kind of clarifications to the different award amounts, how we got there, and if not, I'll ask the committee for any of their questions.
Hey, Jenny, this is Mike Dvorak.
Hey, Mike.
The difference in proposed amounts for this, the next, through December of next year anyways, is due to expertise provided by the companies and then overall workload being provided to JEA right now. So we didn't do a, equal distribution of proposed work. It was based upon overall workload and services provided by the individual firms.
Thank you. Does everyone on the committee understand that, or do you guys need more explanation? Okay. All right, so I will ask for a motion to approve award number 5.
Alan McElroy, move to approve.
Thanks, Alan.
Steve Tooten, second.
Thanks, Steve. All right, we'll do a roll call through the entire committee to approve award number 5. Alan McElroy?
Approved.
Steve Tooten?
Approved.
Stephen Dax?
Approved.
Julie Crawford?
Approved.
And Wayne Young?
Approved.
Thank you. All right, just a few more. We've got award number 6. This was an invitation for bid, and this is for the SJRPP decommissioning BSA closure. So what that stands for is the byproduct storage area, and it's area B. We had good competition on this. We had 4 different bids that submitted, and JB Coxwell was the lowest bid, and this was a straight low bid. So they met all the min quals and had the lowest price for JEA, and they are the recommended awardee in the amount of $5,960,226. We are expecting project completion to be around April of 2021. There was a JSUB goal and requirement on this one, which they met through Donna Hamilton for pipe supplier and DJ Contracting for trucking services. let's see, I'll give you guys a little bit more information. So this was a lump sum bid per line item. So we've got a workbook that will call out line items that comes to a total, and that's how we got to our low bid with a forecast, tonnage per CAD file, and JEA takeoffs. At the commencement of the contract, the contractor may survey, subject to vetting by JEA's third-party project manager, which is Aptum, and determine if any volume variance of significance exists. And then any variance of greater than 1% of the volumes to be moved will be adjusted on a prorated basis up and down for payments on the specific bid line item. So I will pass this to the business to see, or Rodney or Lisa, if you guys want to comment or add any other information about this work, or if the business, and if not, I'll go to the awards committee for questions.
No, I think this is Rodney Loveland speaking. I think the bid workbook, the line items and the forecast that was completed by Aptum pretty much stands alone. They're pretty confident in their numbers. Everybody performed the site walkthrough, which was mandatory. And we had an additional meeting with J.B. Coxwell to go over just some things that we wanted to review before we decided to award. So we're comfortable with the bid as it stands.
Great. All right. Are there any questions from the committee members?
Jenny, this is Stephen Dath. Just one update on the bottom of page 61. It should show Ricky Erickson as the interim GM of Electric Systems, and that would be the same on page 66 and 158.
So add manager. Sorry about that. Okay, we will make those updates. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Wayne Young, motion to approve.
Thanks, Wayne. Can I get
Stephen,
a second?
Second.
Thanks, Stephen. All right, a roll call through the entire committee to approve award number 6. We've got Wayne Young.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Alan McRoy.
Approved.
Julie Crawford. Approved. And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, award number 7. This is a sole source award for 4 kV switchgear for our Park and King substation. So as part of the rehabilitation of the JEA Park and King substation located in Riverside and Historic Avondale, new 4 kV switchgear is required. The substation is located between 2 non-JEA properties and is approximately the size of a 2-car garage. All functional and safety requirements need to be met, while at the same time meeting size and space requirements for this specific location. JEA has selected a specific manufacturer and technology, and there's only one justifiable source for the required supplies and services as identified in our justification. So the Standards Committee is looking at the Switchgear Power Systems LLC as the recommended awardee in the amount of $430,235 with an estimated project completion of September 30th of 2021. And then as just a comment, the JEA Standards Group, in support of the Park and King substation replacement project, developed a new specification for this switchgear equipment. And through the development of the specifications and in consideration of the unique requirements, this one manufacturer has the technology that can provide the equipment required. For other projects, JEA has purchased switchgear equipment similar in size and deemed the equipment price reasonable based on the technology challenges that we're facing. And just as a note, the award amount includes a $15,000 allowance for technical support and travel as needed for installation and acceptance support and training. So I'm going to pass it over to Rodney or Lisa, and if Barry's on the line, I'd like, if you guys could just add a little bit more detail here about this sole source for the committee.
Yeah, this is Rodney Lundgren. I'll defer to the standards group as far as to give the engineering justification on the sole source. That's something they could really speak to better than I would.
Okay, great. Barry Marquardt, do you want to chime in?
Yes. Hey, Jenny and Rodney. This is Barry Marquardt, manager of JEA Standards. So in this specific instance, as Jenny alluded to, mentioned earlier, this specific site, it's an older substation site, and it is located within two current JEA customers in one of the historic districts part of town. So one of the key factors about this location is aesthetics and trying to, work with the customers that are adjacent and coming up with a solution. Previously, historically, the switchgear that we've used requires some sort of venting. Basically, if there is a fault and arc blasted, you have to vent and basically force that energy up and out of the actual switchgear. That requires more space, more room. So in this particular instance, the arc quenching switchgear is relatively new, but the amount of time this device operates is much faster than historical switchgear units. And as a result, we don't need to do all of that venting. And so we're able to fit this in a much smaller footprint. And to that point, SPS is currently the only manufacturer that provides this specific style switchgear for this application.
Thanks, Barry. Does the committee have any questions for him?
Jenny, through the chair to Barry, I like the graphics back on 131. I need to learn how to do that with the dropping in on the general arrangement blueprint. Pretty cool.
Barry's got it all figured out. He does great work. Looks good. Any other questions? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve award number 7.
Steve Tootin, motion to approve.
Thanks, Steve. Can I get a second? Thanks, Wayne. All right, we'll roll call through the committee to approve award number 7, starting with Steve Tootin.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Second. Approved.
Thank you. Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Alan McElroy. Alan, you still there? Did we lose him? We might have lost Alan. Oh, there he is. I see your video now. Alan, you're on mute, Alan. Do you approve award number 7?
Yeah, sorry about that. I had connectivity problems. Thank you. I do approve.
Thank you. And Julie Crawford.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, our last award. So Barry, don't go anywhere. This one's yours too. Award number 10 is the sole source. This is for a 13.2 kV transformers for JEA HQ and FIS building in Riverside. There are 2 projects currently in the early stages of construction. The electrical distribution for these 2 projects will be underground in vaults. The transformers for these 2 projects may be exposed to water intrusion and storm events. And this award is to buy 3 1,000 kVA and 4 2,000 kVA for the JEA HQ and FIS building development projects. Westco Distribution, Inc. is the recommended awardee in the amount of $1,449,499.99. We are estimated the project completion to be September 30th of 2021. And I am going to pass it to Barry to take us through the requirements and the reasoning for this one.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. So Barry Marquardt again. So in this specific instance, historically, these vault-style transformers, which are used on our downtown, typically on our downtown network system, they need to be extremely reliable. But historically, we have used oil-filled equipment. This submersible-style dry type transformers are fairly new. And at this size, ABB is the only manufacturer that makes a dry submersible style unit in the sizes that we need for the two projects mentioned. The couple of the benefits you get are due to the fact that they are dry, there is no oil. You don't get the explosion and the fire hazards that you typically see with the oil-filled equipment. The other thing, submersible, in these locations in these vaults, due to the nature, due to the proximity to the river and potential for flooding, if in those vaults that you are prone to get water in there. So having these units submersible will help in the event of a flood or a water event in these vaults. Maintenance, there is a much less maintenance required with these devices versus the oil-filled as well. So that's an added benefit. But we did reach out to numerous manufacturers. I believe we even did an RFI. There was again at these sizes, the 1,500 and 2,000 kVA units for these projects. For this style unit, ABB was the only vendor that manufactures them for these sizes. The other point to mention is they work closely with our current network protector provider is Eaton. And so we work closely with ABB and Eaton to make sure that all of the connections and all of the, basically everything meshes so that when these transformers are put in service with our network protectors that we have on standards, that everything meshes and matches up properly.
Thanks, Barry. Do you guys have any questions from the committee on this one? All right, can I get a motion to approve award number 10?
Stephen Datz, motion to approve.
Thanks, Stephen. Can I get a second?
Alan, second.
Thanks, Alan. I'm surprised Julie didn't jump in on the last one. It's all right. It's all right. You can sit in the background for this one. All right, I'll roll call through the entire committee to approve award number 10, starting with Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Julie Crawford.
Approved.
Steve Tootin.
Approved.
And Wayne Young.
Approved.
All right, so that wraps up our agenda for the October 29th, 2020 awards meeting. All of the agenda items have been approved individually. And before we close, I'll ask the committee first if there's any other business to come before the awards committee. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about our meeting for next week when we're in person. So do you guys have anything you want to talk about before I go into that?
Jenny, this is Stephen Datz. I would like to just make a recommendation going back to the certification of sole source, and that would be on that second line to insert recent. So it would read as, this is a professional service, which is a recent follow-up. I think that would provide the additional clarity, going forward.
Okay, we will, and I'm fairly certain that we say competitive also, so it has to have been competitively bid and awarded. It's not like we pick that sole source and then we're picking another sole source. So I think we need some clarification. That used to be on that form, but I'm going to go back and just make sure everything, of course, while we're working with the consultant, aligns with the P code, operational procedures, and all of our forms. We're aligning all of those with them currently, and just as an FYI, we do have a consultant, Blue Burrow, I mentioned before, that is working with us to look at the P code operational procedures, talk to all of our standards committees to get an idea of how they are working their processes, since they don't go through a procurement process. They have their own recommendations and ways of doing things, and then making recommendations as a whole on how we can be, the most open, transparent, and competitive as possible. We are expecting that to be completed by mid-November. So they've been working about 3 weeks with us. Many of you, I'm sure, have been in contact with them for internal interviews on our current processes and procedures and anything that you guys think we could be doing differently or better to support your needs. And they will be finishing up, and they are on target to finish by the middle of November. So I'll just make that statement as well. So we are going to be looking at those, Stephen, just very closely with how they connect with our forms, and making sure that if there's any updates we need to make to those, that they're consistent with the new updates to the code. I will also just touch on next week. So this is our last COVID-19 meeting under that executive order 20-69 from the governor. If they decide to extend that, we will certainly, make adjustments again to still do this remotely, but we don't have that information, and, we probably won't until the 31st if he decides to do that. So we're watching that closely, but for now, we are operating on the premise that we will be back in person for this meeting for next week's awards committee meeting, which is, I believe, November 5th. Just so you guys understand kind of logistically, we are going to be holding these in the bid office, which is on the first floor of the customer care building. And when you walk in, for those of you who have not been to the bid office, you walk in the customer care building and you take an immediate left and you'll dead end right into our bid office, where we used to hold all of our bid openings and many of our procurement meetings. That is for ease of people to get in and out of the building. Typically we hold these on T8, but we're going to shift to the bid office to allow, since JEA is not back in the office and we don't have full capacity, with our buildings and letting people, come in and out, we will make that as easy as possible for any public that wants to attend. We also have an overflow room that is being reserved and set up, and I believe that Landon used that as an overflow room for the board meeting this week, so it should be ready to go, and that is in the tower, so T1, in the same situation. You walk in the tower. If you have not been there, this is really more for the public who's listening in. You go in and you take an immediate left, and you will find that corner office space that will be set up for anyone who can't fit in the bid office with the actual committee members, where we will be running the meeting, and we have that from a social distancing standpoint. So we want to make sure that we are going to be socially distanced and safe. Masks are going to be required. I believe that the mayor has extended that, so all of that will need to be followed if coming to our public meeting. The structure of the meeting will change a bit. We're still going to offer the WebEx as an option, obviously, for the JEA employees who are not in the office. We want to minimize who is coming into the office. So we will still have that option for anyone who wants to attend. Certainly, they have the option to attend in public, but they will also have the option to attend via WebEx. We will shift the start of the meeting and how we run that meeting back to the way that we were doing it in person. So certainly if there's a public that attends the meeting, we will ask for public comment in person, and then we will also ask on the WebEx via phone. We are going to suggest and ask that anyone who wants to email us public comment prior to the meeting, that they do that an hour before. You still have plenty of options to either show up in person or attend through a phone call, through WebEx, or even through the WebEx audio. And so for us to make our meetings run efficiently and quickly with all the other options, we're asking that those come in ahead of time. And all this will be on our public notice that we'll put on the website. But we won't have to wait anymore, Landon, until the end of 10/10 to start the meeting. But again, all the options will still be available through the WebEx piece. So I won't be reading that thing in the beginning about the social distancing and the executive order. So we will have, kind of our back to normal type meetings with just the making sure that the JEA employees and any public that doesn't want to attend in person from a safety perspective have that option to come in virtually. So do you guys have any questions? I think the only other thing I want to mention is that we have to have 3 of the committee members in person physically. So my group will work with each of you at the beginning of the week, like we always do, from a quorum perspective to make sure that we have quorum. We'll work with your assistants, and we'll make sure that we've got at least 3 of you that can attend in person. And if we find there's an issue, we will make sure that we get that taken care of before Thursday. We'll let people know if we need someone else to come in or a delegate to come in, but we are going to need those 3 people in person in the bid office, at least 3 of the 5 of you.
Hey, Jenny.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Steve too. I was going to say, I'm actually of late, I've been downtown more, I've been at home, so you can put me down as one of the in-person attendees. I'm fine with that.
Okay, great. And it's okay if all 5 of you come. It's not a mandate. And if you can't make it down, we just need to make sure that we have 3.
Jenny, this is Alan. I can be down there too.
Okay. So for next week, we've got at least Steve and Alan. Is there one more that I can just check off while we're talking about it?
Steve and Dash.
Okay, great. All right. So we've got 3, and if the rest of you are able to attend, great. If not, you guys can call in, and if there's a way to rotate, if you got, my group's going to work with you guys to figure out and make sure that we're set from a quorum and a physical attendance perspective.
Hey, and Jenny, can I just clarify just one point about any members that are deciding to use the WebEx feature to participate in the meetings? And our office, along with Carla Miller's office, should be putting out today sort of a how to do these meetings for all of our city boards and commissions. But I just wanted to point out, so far there's a long line of AGO opinions on this topic of boards meeting remotely. And so you have the physical quorum requirement that's necessary. You have to have that first before your members can call in. But members can call in if there's an extraordinary circumstance. That's the phrase that the AGO uses. So what's an extraordinary circumstance is what the board deems it to be. In the past, it's been health issues, serious injury, illness, and our office is of the opinion that if there are board members who have COVID-19 concerns because we're in the middle of a pandemic, that likely that is something that could be deemed by a board to be an extraordinary circumstance. So I just wanted to highlight that, because if we were in ordinary times outside of a pandemic, it's not standard for board members to just call in just because. It's the extraordinary circumstance that allows the members to call in as long as we have that physical presence there. Okay?
Thanks for that clarification, Lasikia. And same as, if we were in person, just like she said, we just need to have that quorum to be able to have the meeting. We certainly strive to have a full committee at every meeting, whether it's each of you or through your delegates. But if for some reason, going forward, even just as a new committee, since you guys haven't done this in person, and that's a great point, Lasikia, we just still have to have that 3-person, committee in person to hold the meeting. So again, we want everyone to be there if possible, or a delegate, but we can still move forward if for some reason you have an emergency or conflict and they're in a delegate you can put in place. We can still hold the meeting. All right. So do you guys have any questions for us about next week or anything else for the committee before we adjourn? All right. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Thursday and a safe Halloween weekend. If you guys are venturing out or going to the game, please be safe. And I will see everybody next week, and some of you guys I will see in person. So excited to see everybody. I haven't been to the office since the beginning of March.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny.
All right, Thank you, Jenny. Thanks. The meeting's adjourned. Thanks.